Are you actually set it up in a way that's going to make it easier to play the shot you want, or are you making it more difficult? Because lies do funny things to your low point. So we're on the beach at Vale de Lobo, and what better to do on the beach than do a tutorial for you guys. This video is all about optimizing your adjustment to your environment, reconceptualizing how you set up through shifting your awareness into different places. Maybe some of these things you might not have thought about in this way, which are going to let you adjust your posture in a way that you recognize ready for the shot you want to play. Because if you're off balance, and maybe you're off balance but without realizing it, the body recognizes that, but you don't, you're already compromised before you even start, unknowingly, because these differing lies really do affect the angle of attack. We're going to talk about finding your low point. And what I'd recommend you do, and it's probably a bit too cold at the moment, but take your shoes and socks off and get in a bunker. Or at least, if you can't do that, or you don't feel comfortable doing that, just go in a bunker and find the natural bottom of your golf swing. Where is the bottom of the arc? So when I swing, now I can see where the low point is. That one was too far back. Did I intend to do that? No, I tried to recreate the one I did before. So something happened. Am I able to recognise my low point? So you can see these are a little bit early, and we want a ball turf contact. So if that line, we want to be striking the ball and then the ground. If we're before, then maybe this is going to compromise the impact and really affect your shot shape, because when you strike the ground before, of course the club can dig in, it can turn over, but you might not always hit the ground. You may just skim the ground. Now if you're striking the ground here, what's happening is that this golf club is starting to go left by the time you get to the golf ball. The earlier I'm striking the ground and releasing the golf club, by the time I get to the golf ball on the arc, it's going left. So it's starting to go this way. Now sometimes you're going to clip it off really nice, and you might think, oh, that's a nice strike, and I've really nipped it off, or just brushed it. But if that was a little fade with an iron, it could be a slice with a driver, because that left path is going to be accentuated when you've got less loft. So straight away, we want to be drawing some comparisons between what we see in here and what we might see on the golf course and what we have seen. Our previous history on the course, our experience, should help us join the dots. If I shift my low point forward, so if I strike it now on this line, what you'll see now is that it's a lot straighter as opposed to the one going to the left. Sometimes unknowingly, you might be moving in your golf swing and shifting your low point, and it just happens to square the path a bit and it produces a good shot. But more often than not, the low point might be too far back and you end up with the path to the left. So how do we change the path? Because it is down to intention, and therefore it is down to, yeah, just swinging more to the right potentially. But I can swing to the right, but if my low point's too far back, I've still got the same problem. I'm swinging to the right, but by the time I get to the golf ball, the path's going left again. So actually, it's not really a swing path issue. And we might be on a launch monitor looking at face and path and assuming it's a face path issue, which ultimately it is, but that might not be the causing factor. Low point is absolutely key. So how do we shift the low point forward? And not only that, what influence is this going to have on your angle of attack? Very, very important. The more you hit down, the more that's going to shift your path to the right. So if we're hitting on the up, the path starts to move to the left. Somewhere at the bottom, it's going to be fairly neutral. Coming down, if this was my like direction, coming down, the path's to the right. So now, by hitting down, I'm creating a path to the right, providing the low point's forward of the ball. So we talked about the feet And what are they doing? They're firing messages to the brain to control balance. And what is balance? It's your centre of mass, it's your body weight. The more you go one way, moving the balance across, that's going to have a big influence on where you're going to strike the ground. Over here. Move the weight over this side, it's going to be over here. So just by having my weight here, I'm striking the ground here. Weight over here is here. That's a huge distance in golfing terms. So if you're not creating much of a divot, if your divots are shallow, and you tend to fade the ball and slice it, then we know we're probably releasing early. So the first place to go is to move across with the body weight. Let's explore this side, because even with an early release, if the weight's over here, we've got a chance of squaring that path. But as soon as we change the angle of attack, and now we come down, now you're going to start shifting the path out to the right. So when we stand to the golf ball, what's it like to actually have more weight on the left side? Doing a drill like this is okay, but it's not giving you the same feedback with 2 feet, because how much pressure do we have on our left or right? Here it's 100%. I've not got the pressure on the right. So how do I gauge what 60% is, 70%, 80%? We don't need to know these numbers, but we need to express what a lot is, a little bit more, because you can see already what it's doing to the upper body and how this is going to influence the angle of attack. First things first, set up, draw a line, and where do you strike it? If you intend to strike there, where do you strike it? So I'm just a little bit early. So what's it feel like to have a bit more pressure left? So I'm going to close my eyes, set up, close my eyes and put a bit more pressure left. It may change the angle of the shoulders. So now with my eyes open, pressure left, I've just got more pressure. Going to swing, try and strike down and see what happens. And I went even further. So now I've gone too far, I've got a gauge, I can feel what it's like to be over here, as opposed to spending my life back here, trying to maybe help the ball up. Sometimes we're trying to do the work of the club. It really does play havoc with the face-path relationship. So what does it feel like to strike steeper? We can see the orientation of the club's different. To strike down, look where the handle is. Striking up, bottom of the arc down here, look at this, very different. Spatially very different. How do we move into these places? How do we recognise what this is? Just putting our hands there and doing this isn't going to suddenly just miraculously reorganise a whole movement pattern. Starts from here. We've got to allow the body to move into a place to let this happen. And then this can happen now. And you can shift the low point so far forward. And then further back now. So now we know where extreme left is. We can come back. Much more closer to centre, and we can start to fine tune this, recognising where the pressure is in the feet and when it's there. So it is going to move, we are going to move back, but we've got to get back across. And how do we do it? You'll have seen a lot of the videos on the channel about shifting pressure, using rotation. You've got to find your way. There's going to be some shift, there's going to be rotation. How do you combine it? Well, when you use an exercise like this and you explore this movement, you're going to start to find what works for you. So noticing how much pressure you distribute and where you distribute it in the feet, where the body is and where all the different segments are. Keep it simple. Pelvis, torso, shoulders, where are you in relation to this golf ball? Are you over here? Are you over here? Are you tilted? Just have a look in the mirror and you'll see. Is this going to help me strike a golf ball on the way down with a low point forward? I've got so much to do, I can't do it. So I'd be the kind of player, therefore, that likes a nice fluffy lie. I'd rather have the ball sitting up in the semi-rough than on a tight line of fairway. But the good players prefer the tight, consistent lies, so they don't get flyers and lose spin control. But the average golfer generally likes it to be sat up because they've got a very early release and a shallow angle of attack, and they can't really get that sweet spot to the ball, leading edge cutting in, and that angle of attack to the ball. So it all starts with setup. So what can we do to help ourselves? We can go to a downhill lie. So you do the same exercise with a downhill lie in a bunker, and I want to strike past here. Straight away you're going to sense there's a difference in how you're distributing your body weight and pressure. And then swing and see what happens. If you make a swing where you're not adjusting, it's very easy to strike the ground before the ball because the ground's in the way of the arc. But even if with a low point that's further back, you'll still get a strike. But if the low point's further forward, so you can use this exercise to find out how you're adjusting to this slope and how this might help you get a downward angle of attack on the ball. So if I assume a normal stance and swing, I'm probably going to hit the ground before the ball. But if I want to catch this line, I'm going to have to change things. Probably going to have to shift, pressure, left, probably body weight, left. And now you can see where I am in relation to the ball. Ball position's not changed, but I have moved in relation to it. So now we can strike much later. And what's that also going to do? It's going to give us that slight into-out path, encouraging a draw, encouraging more of a neutral path. So our face now to path will be easier to control potentially. Using these lies to find out how we can adjust our low point. So going uphill, naturally there's a bit more pressure here. This can make an early release a tricky one. We might lose loads of distance because we're adding so much loft. What we want to do is get that low point to the ball. So now we've got quite a bit of work to do. This scenario with this intention is going to get you moving. You've got to move to achieve this objective, to get the strike here and the path. The path being dictated to by the depth of divot. Look how deep the divot is. It's a deep divot. As opposed to shallow. So you can see the difference in my movement. Legs not really been, they're not even in the equation because I've already done this. If I early release, there's no need for the body to move. So the body doesn't move because this is doing the work. Job's done. No matter what I try and do with this, if I have this in the swing, this is just now unnecessary movement. So we need to find our way of recognising how we achieve this objective, striking past the line, uphill line, make it harder and the real thing's easier. We've got to move now. I can't release earlier, so now I've got to move and bring the club down later. And then when we go back to a level lie, we can explore this. We've got now some boundaries. We can move forward and strike the ball later. We can move it back. Strike the ground earlier. We've got room for manoeuvre. We can adapt our posture and setup to influence this. And we recognise why we're doing it. We recognise what's just happened when we see that divot. More importantly, we can read it from the ball flight, the feeling of the strike, the feeling of the swing, and this is what we need to practice.
If you love the coaching, but you're not able to get a lesson and want to experience the transformation for yourself, the closest thing you can do to get a lesson is buy a Zen GRF Infinity training system and experience the same things that you're seeing my pupils go through in a lesson, and a 2-hour download all the exercises that enable my pupils to tap into those forces and find their most natural, efficient golf swing.